I don't know what to think. Carrie has been treating me differently lately. After 22 years of marriage, you can just feel it. Maybe something your spouse says, or maybe just the way they look at you. She has been in this state for months. Does she have any physical problems that she won't tell me about? Every time I asked her if there was a problem, she replied, "No, why do you keep asking me that? For God's sake, I don't have any physical problems." I thought maybe she was having an affair, but that wouldn't be like her. Certainly not after 22 years of marriage. We have 3 children. Well, they were children once. Kim is 21, married herself, and they have a child together. Jordan is a sophomore in college, and Julie will be graduating high school soon and then off to college on her own. Maybe Carrie was going through the changes I always heard about. It was really getting on my nerves. I started looking at her more closely to see if anything had changed. Whether I made up a bunch of things in my head and then went over the edge. It's so hard to explain. I'm not a writer, so it's just hard for me to find the words. The best way to describe it is an internal feeling. Deep down, I knew something was wrong. Our sex life hasn't really changed much in the last 15 years or so. We make love or have sex, call it what you want. Of course, it wasn't like the first few years when all we did was make love like rabbits. That's just the way life works. Almost everyone we knew seemed to have a marriage like ours. So I always thought we were the norm. We had sex about once every month or two. Occasionally, if we were horny, we would do it once a week or more often. Are we in love with each other? I always thought we were. It wasn't something we talked about much. Deep down, I believed we cared about each other. We weren't a storybook or a fantasy. We were real people in the real world. We both worked, paid our bills, enjoyed our family, just regular, everyday people. And then I noticed that when she went to work, she didn't dress any differently. Even when she left work with the girls, nothing seemed to change. One day, she and her coworker, Michelle, went shopping together. I decided to follow them, even though I felt it was wrong. I kept my distance as they went from store to store. Nothing seemed out of place. It was just 2 women shopping. So I went home. In the weeks that followed, I listened to phone calls, checked emails, and just watched Carrie. She was acting strange, but I didn't see any big differences. We did make love a little more often, but not that unusual. I was starting to feel uncomfortable checking up on her this way, but I really thought something was different. One Saturday, when I was going to play golf, I left the house like I do most Saturdays. But when my golf buddies and I got to the course, it was completely full because of tournaments. They decided to look at other courses, but I just decided to go home. Maybe I would just take Carrie out to dinner or something because of the way I was acting towards her. When I got home, I noticed a car in our driveway. I think it belonged to her friend Michelle, but I wasn't sure. I walked through the front door and heard moaning. As I approached the bedroom, I thought of my worst fear. There on the bed lay my wife, Carrie, completely naked, with Michelle's face deeply embedded in hers. I lost my composure and screamed, "What the hell is going on?" looking at the shocked faces of both women. Carrie looked up in utter surprise and screamed, "Oh my God, Jim! Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!" She kept repeating it. Michelle jumped up and without saying a word, quickly put on some of her clothes and quickly left. I just stood there for a minute or so looking at my wife. I didn't know what to say. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. She stood up and put on her bathrobe. "Jim, please let me explain, please." I stood there completely stunned. "You cheated on me with a woman?" "Please, Jim, I need to explain. It just happened. It wasn't love. It was just sex. Something else. I never cheated on you." "What the hell are you talking about?" "Because it was a woman. It wasn't cheating. You took away the trust I've always had in you and just threw it away. I thought we always respected each other, but I think your respect for me was pretty shallow." "Jim, we need to talk. Please, you have to let me explain." "How long has this been going on, Carrie?" "Let me guess. How about 4 months?" Carrie started crying. "I wanted to tell you, Jim, I was going to too." "God damn it, stop it, Carrie. 4 fucking months of sleeping with Michelle behind my back. What you're gonna tell me doesn't mean a damn thing. We share a family, and I thought we had a loving relationship. I guess I was wrong. The love in that relationship was one-sided. Jim, it just happened. I didn't mean for it to happen. One day, Michelle and I, Carrie, I can't talk to you right now. You disgust me too much. I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave and try to get my head together. If it was with a guy, at least I could beat the crap out of him before I left you. For some ungodly reason, you think it's okay to have sex with another woman. I'll be back in a couple hours, if at all. Jim, I need to tell you. I heard her voice as I got out and got in the car. I wasn't a drinker, but I needed something stronger than coffee. I went to one of the local clubs I belonged to and tried to gather my thoughts. God, I couldn't believe it. Why would she do this? Where am I supposed to go now? I know I should listen to what she had to say, but I knew I wouldn't be the same no matter what she said. I remember reading about 2 women doing this and how erotic it was. Well, I'm here to tell you that catching your wife with another woman is not erotic. It's sad, and it's really painful. I got home about 3 hours later. Carrie was dressed the way she normally dresses and had made coffee. She asked if we could sit in the living room and she would tell me exactly what happened. A frenzy was raging inside me. I just hoped I could listen to her. But I had my own doubts. I sat down on the couch and she came over to sit next to me. Please sit down in the chair. I don't want to be near you. She was crying a little. Until today, I've always felt sorry and uncomfortable seeing you cry. But right now, I don't care about your feelings. You've hurt me terribly, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you. Jim, it just so happened. One day when Michelle and I were out shopping, we brought out our new clothes and tried them on. Michelle kept regaling me with comments about my body. We went out and bought some wine, and I think that loosened my inhibitions. As we were trying on the clothes, Michelle touched my breasts. She said my breasts were so full and didn't sag at all. I don't know why, but I let her touch them. God, it was incredible, the touch of another woman. So different from yours, Jim. So not only am I a lousy lover, but Michelle is just what the doctor ordered. Much better than an old husband. Please, Jim, it's not like that. It's just that a woman's touch is different. Didn't you feel like you were cheating on me, Carrie? Didn't you think about me at all? Jim, I didn't feel like I was cheating. Michelle went on to tell me how men like to see 2 women together. She said her husband didn't mind at all. She has been with other women for years. Are you hearing yourself, Carrie? Sex with another woman is not cheating? That's what you're telling me. Carrie, I saw that, and my stomach twisted. My wife was a whore to another woman, letting her do things you didn't want me to do. Let me ask you something. If you came home and I let another man fuck me, would that turn you on? Wouldn't it, Carrie? Would that be cheating or not? That's what you're telling me. You having sex with someone other than me should be a turn-on. Well, Carrie, big news. It makes me sick, and I don't know if I can live with it. Jim, I don't know what to say. To answer your question, no. You having sex with another man would not turn me on, and I would lose respect for you. Carrie, you disrespected me when you got into bed with Michelle. I don't want to touch you. I've lost all respect I ever had for you. You see, love is more than sex. It's honesty, affection, trust, loyalty, and respect. You have none of those things left for me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm moving into the guest room. I don't want to be in bed with you. Jim, you can't be serious. It wasn't a big deal. You're willing to sacrifice 22 years of marriage because I slept with a woman? Jim, I didn't want to cheat on you with another man. That's why I tried something new with Michelle. Carrie, it all starts with Michelle. Now you have a taste of a new life. It doesn't end there. If you're a whore to Michelle, you'll soon be a whore to someone else. You've just started your new life. I'll start looking for an apartment. Please, just leave me alone and stay away from me. You can explain your new lifestyle to the kids. I'm sure they'll be interested to know that sex with a partner of the same sex is not cheating. Jim, maybe it was cheating in a way, but I didn't think of it that way. But you're overreacting. Michelle and I don't do it all the time. Maybe once every week or 2. I was just trying something new. Please try to understand. I almost feel sorry for you, Carrie. A husband of 22 years means nothing to you. I can't talk to you anymore. You're making me sick. I just got up and left. Our life went on. I started sleeping in the guest room. Carrie tried to be very nice to me, but I just wasn't taking it. Something inside of me was gone. Maybe my pride, my ego, my self-respect. Whatever it was, I lost it. In the weeks that followed, I was gone longer or worked longer hours, anything to keep me from having to come home and see Carrie. She acted like the problem with our marriage was my fault. She just went on with her life. I don't know if she went to see Michelle again because of her lesbian love affair. She stopped talking about it. I know she saw Michelle at work, but she never mentioned it in front of me. My life was miserable. I came home half drunk one day and thought I would try to have sex with Carrie to show her what she was missing. I know she wasn't really interested in it, but she agreed. The thought of her and anyone else, male or female, stopped me dead center. I looked at her and just stood up and went to my room. Life sucks for me. On Friday, I walked into a club to have a couple drinks. I had to do something. I decided to give it one last try. I know I still loved her, I just wasn't sure if I could live with her new lifestyle. One more conversation with Carrie. She's gonna have a choice, her new lifestyle or me. I headed home, hoping for the best. When I got there, the house was empty. Carrie wasn't there, so I headed to Michelle's house thinking the worst. When I got to Michelle's house, I saw Carrie's car parked in the driveway. I walked up to the house and knocked on the door. I was going to give Carrie a fair and just choice. Enough of this crap. She would either stay married to me and live a monogamous lifestyle, or she could live her lesbian or bi lifestyle without me. The choice is hers. I knocked on the door again, but there was still no answer. I walked around the back of the house. They had a pool and a privacy fence. I opened the gate and peered into the pool. No one was swimming. As I walked into the yard, I saw Carrie lying on a chaise lounge completely naked with Michelle kissing her. Well, it looked like Carrie's decision had been made. They were so engrossed in their sexual acts that they didn't even notice me. I glanced at their patio door, and there stood Michelle's husband, Roger, standing there completely naked. He certainly enjoyed looking at my naked wife who was lying there with her eyes closed, letting Michelle do whatever she wanted with her. As she did so, Michelle looked at Roger. Oh my God, she was going to let Roger fuck my wife. Michelle blocked the view so that Carrie couldn't see Roger approaching her. Roger slowly made his way toward them. I couldn't let that happen. Even if she wanted it or had done it before, I wasn't going to let it happen, not in front of me. As soon as Michelle moved her hands, I pounced on him. I started pounding him as hard as I could. Carrie opened her eyes and screamed, as did Michelle. I continued to punch and hit this man with everything I had. Then I started kicking him with my legs. I unleashed all the contained rage I was holding inside me. I had a brother-in-law who was a policeman. He said it was very difficult to beat a man to death with your bare hands. I was at that point. Roger had turned into a bloody mess. My hand was covered in blood. I didn't know if it was my blood or Roger's. I was a maniac doing the only thing I knew how to do. At this point in my life, I was saving what dignity I still had left. My hands were swollen. Carrie and Michelle both yelled for me to stop, and each of them grabbed my arm. I pushed them away and threw them into the pool. I started to come to my senses and kicked Roger one more time. Then, when Carrie yelled something at me, I ran out of the yard and headed home. I was going to go and quickly pack my suitcase and leave the house. I never wanted to see Carrie again. Yes, she was the love of my life, but I hated her. When I got home, I ran into the house and started packing my suitcase. The phone rang. I wasn't going to answer it. The message from Carrie was on the recorder. Please, Jim, don't go anywhere. I'm on my way home. Please, please, please wait for me. I'm not... I'd heard enough excuses. I hurriedly packed my things. I didn't want to be there when she came back. I grabbed my suitcases and headed for the door. As I headed to my car, a patrol car pulled up. The officer said, Mr. Jones, you are under arrest. Please put your bags down and put your hands on the hood of the car. They handcuffed me and put me in the police car. As they pulled away, I saw Carrie pull into the driveway, watching the patrol car pull away. When we arrived at the police station, I was arrested on charges of assault and battery. Michelle must have called the police after I left. I didn't care. No perverted son of a bitch would be able to toot my horn. As soon as I was arrested, the police gave me medical attention. My hands swelled to almost twice their normal size. I broke 2 joints and suffered several cuts and abrasions. The doctor said that because of the condition my hands were in, he would hate to see what the guy I beat up looked like. What was I turning into? I had never been such a violent person. All I wanted in life was to have a family of my own and a loving wife. I guess I wanted too much. I had one phone call to make. I contacted my lawyer and talked to him. I told him that I didn't want to involve Carrie, that this was just about him and me. He said it was too late. Carrie had already contacted him and arranged for bail. Bob, my attorney, said I did a really good job with Roger. I was lucky I was only charged with assault and battery. It could have been attempted murder. Anyway, Roger was in the hospital. He required several stitches above his eyes, had a broken nose, several cuts and scrapes, and a broken or cracked rib. He will take a while to recover, but should pull through. Bob wanted to know what made me keep beating this man up. He thought about invoking temporary insanity in my defense. He told me we would see how it went. The next morning, I was told that my bail was posted and that my wife was waiting for me out front. I saw her sitting there in the reception area. She was a beautiful woman, poised and sat there quietly, although she looked a little nervous. I asked permission to go out the back door. I didn't want to talk to Carrie. I told them not to tell her I left until she asked. I caught a cab and headed home. The suitcases I had packed were untouched. I grabbed them, got in my car, and drove off. I found a seedy motel to spend the next few days in until I decided where I was going to live. I contacted Bob, my lawyer, and told him where I was staying, but asked him not to give Carrie's number. I didn't want to talk to her. Not now, and maybe not ever. Monday morning, I called work first thing and talked to my boss. We were good friends, and he had already gotten a call from Carrie asking about me. I told him I needed some time off, maybe 2 weeks. He approved the time off and would record it as a vacation. He asked me to stay in touch, and if I needed anything, to let him know. I called my daughter Kim. She was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, worrying about me. She said her mother had called and explained a number of things to her and told her I was gone. I don't know how much Carrie told Kim, so I didn't want to say much. I did tell her that I had beaten up a man and that charges had been filed against me, and that bail had been posted and I would probably go to trial. If she wanted more information, let her ask her mother. I gave her the number where I was staying and told her I would look for a small apartment in the next few days. I explained that her mother and I probably wouldn't be together anymore. I told her how much I loved her, her brother and sister, and my feelings for them hadn't changed. Over the next couple weeks, I found a nice little apartment. It was enough for me. I didn't need anything extravagant. I went home when Carrie was at work and took most of my clothes and personal belongings. I left Carrie a note simply letting her know that I had taken my personal belongings. If she had any problems, she could contact Bob, but please don't try to contact me. Bob was my attorney, and I conducted all my negotiations through him. I heard from the children several times. They would tell me how their lives were going, and always a little about Carrie. It seems that she and Michelle were no longer friends. They were polite to each other at work, but they didn't socialize in the same company. They always ended our conversations by saying, "Daddy, Mommy loves you," before hanging up. I hadn't filed for divorce yet. I just couldn't start that process. I thought I would leave it up to Carrie. She was the only one who needed that freedom. I knew deep down that I really still loved her, but I didn't want to be made a fool of. I hadn't even canceled my current or savings accounts. Carrie was the executive secretary. Carrie makes enough money to support herself. She didn't open any credit cards or take out any savings. In fact, she funded a savings account. I gave Julie some money whenever I saw her, which wasn't too often, and occasionally talked to her on the phone. Bob called me about a week before we were supposed to go to court. He said he had great news. All the charges against me had been dropped. I asked him why they did that. They had me in a tight grip, both in terms of jail time and financially. "Well, Jim," he said, "I know you don't want to hear this, but you have Carrie to thank for all the charges being dropped." She told the Melchers that if they kept pressing charges, she'd let it be known that Roger was going to rape her when you intervened, and that she'd press charges against them, and even if the charges didn't stick, the rumors would. It will probably cost them both their jobs, and they will probably have to move. They told her that it would ruin her too if she told everything. She told them that if it would save you, she was willing to take the risk. Damn it, I thought. It was primarily her fault that all this happened in the first place. Now I'm the bad guy here, and she's the savior. I have to admit she did it for me. Bob gave me a letter from Carrie. "I should give it to you, but I have no idea what's in it. She cares about you, Jim. I know you don't want to hear this, but you should at least read the letter." I took it and put it in my pocket. Maybe I'll look at it later. When I got back to my apartment, my youngest daughter Julie had left me a message asking me to call her. So I called her cell phone, and when she answered, she really seemed happy. "Dad, I heard you are a free man, and according to Mom, you are a hero and saved her. I always knew you were special. Dad, the reason I'm calling is for Thanksgiving dinner. Kim's family will be there, as well as Jordan and his new girlfriend, who you should meet. Can you make it, Dad? Will your mom be there, Julie?" "Yes, Dad. Mom will be there, but it'll be at Kim's house. Please, Daddy, come. We all miss you." "Daddy, Mommy's so sorry. She didn't realize how much she hurt you." "Honey, I'm going to your grandparents for Thanksgiving. Tell everyone thank you for inviting me, but I can't see her right now. I love you, honey, and tell everyone I love them." "Does that include Mom, Dad?" I couldn't answer her, so I just said goodbye and hung up. I didn't go anywhere for Thanksgiving. I didn't want to discuss my personal problems with Mom and Dad. They had gotten older, and it would probably just hurt them. Besides, they loved Carrie, and I knew they would tell me to just forgive her. For me, it wasn't that easy. Christmas was approaching. I asked Julie to go shopping with me to get something for everyone. We had a lot of fun. We ate at Red Lobster and shopped at all the best stores. When we went into one store, Julie said she needed to get something for her mom. She found some beautiful outfits that I knew Carrie would love. Julie looked at me and said, "Daddy, can you lend me some money so I can buy these outfits for Mom? I don't have enough." "Only if you promise not to put my name on any of the gifts. You can buy whatever you want and you don't have to pay me back." "Great, thanks, Dad." She started dialing up the bill. Eventually, I had to put the money on a credit card. She bought her mom over $500 worth of clothes. I bought gifts for everyone except Carrie. Julie looked at me and said, "Daddy, just so you know and don't want to feel stupid, I know Mom bought you something. So it's up to you to decide if you buy her something. And again, healthy. If I don't buy Carrie something, then I'm the bad guy." I looked at Julie and said, "Okay, blackmailer, what should I get her?" Julie smiled and kissed me on the cheek and then dragged me to the jewelry store. She picked out a diamond necklace and showed it to me. "What do you think, Dad? Doesn't that tell you something about Mom?" I had to agree with the little blackmailer. The necklace said Carrie on it. "Well, Dad, yes or no?" The necklace was worth $450. I looked at a smiling Julie and the ridiculous $450 price tag. "Okay, but that's all I'm buying her." "How can you say no to your little girl? It's damn near impossible." As we were walking back to Julie's house from the store, Julie asked me if I had read Carrie's letter. She asked me to please read it and said I needed to know how her mom felt. I stopped in front of the house and said, "Okay, I'll read it." "Are you going to help carry the bags?" "No, I'm not going into the house. You can go a few times if you need to." As she went, I looked up at the panoramic window and saw Carrie looking at me. It was the first time I'd seen her in months. I had to look away. I said goodbye to Julie and went back to my apartment. With nervous fingers, I opened the letter, expecting anything. "Dear Jim, first of all, dear, although you may not believe it, I love you with all my heart. Yes, I know that being with Michelle betrayed your trust and our vows that we made. Believe me, I didn't know her husband was there that day. I would never betray you with another man. You were my first, my only, and you will be my last. I am truly sorry for everything, and if I could, I would change everything. I could make a lot of excuses, the lousy schedules we both have, the fact that we weren't completely happy with our sex life, just wanted something different. But those are excuses, not reasons. I made a mistake, Jim, every time I was with her. Mistakes that I cry for every day because I destroyed the union between the two of us with something as pathetic as sexual release, as well as lies. The affair destroyed our marriage, the lies destroyed your trust, and I will forever regret it. If there is any way to fix what happened and make us whole again, I would do it. I know you hate me. I know you don't want to look at me and that I probably disgust you. In a marriage that has lasted as long as ours, you understand your spouse, or at least you try to. I know you don't forgive easily, but I hope that someday you will try. We have children in common who love us both. I also hope that someday we can enjoy them together again. Let me know when you want to see them or spend the holidays with them, but you don't want to see me, so I'll be gone for that time. I love you, Jim, and I hope with all my heart that there is some way we can work through this, for you and me. Carrie. After reading this letter from Carrie, I cried. God, how much I loved her, but I hated what she was doing. I had to think hard about what to do next. I was so lonely, lying in bed and tossing from side to side for a long time. I just couldn't sleep, so I got up and went to the computer. I decided to read some stories, some true life stories. There were a few stories about men who were lonely during the holidays, mostly because their wives had died. These men were sad to lose their wives and spend the holidays alone. Some of the stories brought tears to my eyes. These stories really made me think. I had a wife that I loved. She wasn't dead or in a coma. She was alive and healthy. So if I were in the shoes of these other men, what would I wish for? I would probably wish for my loving wife back. It was Friday night. I was home and mourning a woman who lived only 5 miles away. I didn't want to live my life without her. I wanted her by my side. I wanted to die an old man beside her. Shit, it was already midnight. I didn't care. I put the letter in my pocket and headed for Carrie's house. When I got there, I looked out the window and saw her sitting there in her robe. I knocked on the door and she stood up, wondering who it could be. She looked out from behind the curtain and saw me standing there. Carrie rushed to unlock the door and looked at me with tearful eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks. Jim, you came back to me? Yes, but I need an answer to one question. I picked up her letter and asked her if what she wrote was true. With tears streaming down her face, she replied, It's all true, every word of it, Jim. I love you with all my being. Always have and always will. I'm so sorry that I hurt you. I asked where Julie was. Carrie said she had gone to a friend's house for the night. They were having a Christmas party and Julie wasn't going home. Carrie looked at me. Jim, I miss you so much. Will you make love to me? I kissed her, then turned off the lights and led her into the bedroom where we made love. I lay on top of her, put my arms around her and kissed her. Then I lay down next to her. She looked up at me. Please don't ever leave me. I will do everything in my power to win back your love, respect, and trust. I will do my best, and tonight we took a big step in restoring our love. I fell asleep in Carrie's arms. Right before I went to sleep, I was reminded of the stories I had read about loneliness. That wasn't going to happen to me. Not now, not ever. Not as long as Carrie is by my side. Epilogue. We didn't talk about the last few months anymore, though I occasionally caught her absent gaze, sometimes pensive, sometimes pained, sometimes dreamy. Most importantly, we looked forward to our life together. We never took each other for granted again. One last thought. She loved the necklace I'd given her.